this video, we're going to take that idea of working out the area of rectangles and push it a bit further to look at working out the area of composite shapes that involve rectangles. I find it quite enjoyable to do these kinds of problems because it's quite fun to break up the shape into its smaller components, work those out, and then put them back together again. So to help us out here, we're going to put on some of the missing dimensions. So down the bottom, we're looking at this length all the way along here, which is going to be our 50 meters plus this distance here, which is our 15 meters, giving us 65 meters in total. And here, this distance here is going to be the full 80 meters minus the 60 meters to give us this remaining part here. Now that we've got every part labelled, it's going to be a lot easier to work out the area of this shape. Now I'm going to show you 3 different ways that you could work it out, and there's probably many more, but I'm just going to show you 3 to start with. So I'm going to start by putting a line across here to divide up this backwards L shape into 2 rectangles. So splitting up these 2 rectangles, we can work out each one separately, the area for each one separately, and then we can just add them together to get the full area. So you'd be looking at a 60 by 15 meter rectangle and also a 65 by 20 meter rectangle, and you can work those out in your own time. We're not going to work it out fully here, but once you've got those 2 answers, you just add them together. Instead of drawing the line there, we could have drawn the line here, and we could have split that up into these 2 rectangles. So that would be a 20 by 50 and a 15 by 80. Again, finding out the area of each of these 2 rectangles means that we just need to add them together to find the full area. The third way is really quite interesting. We could make a really big rectangle, this 80 by 15 meter rectangle, and then we could look at making this smaller rectangle. And once we have the big rectangle and the small rectangle, we would need to do a subtraction, because here what we've really done is we've overestimated or we've overcalculated what the area is here, and we're coming through and subtracting it. So we would work out what is 65 by 80 for this big one, and for the smaller one what is 50 by 60, and subtract that for the smaller one. So there you have it, 3 different ways to calculate the area of this composite shape. Let's look at a couple more examples. So this first one up the top, I'm going to divide it into this rectangle here, and this rectangle here. So it's easy to see this one's an 11 by 3. So the area of this rectangle alone is 33 meters squared. Remember, 2 dimensions every time we're talking about area. This one down here is a 14 by 3. Is 42 meters squared. This one in here, we need to work out what is the distance along here and what is the distance along this way as well. So along here we could use this 6 meters here and the 11 meters here. So we take the longer one minus the shorter one to get our remaining 5 meters. So it's 11 minus 6 being 5. Along this distance here we've got 11, but we've got to subtract this bit here and this bit here, so 3 and 3, so subtract 3, which will give us 5 meters. So in here we've got a 5 by 5. Remember, we can also call that 5 squared. So we've got 25 meters squared in that part there. So our final calculation, we're going to write area equals, and we're going to have 33 plus 25 plus 42, and that's going to give us 100 meters squared. Down here, what I might do is I might use that idea of making a big rectangle and subtracting out our 2 smaller rectangles. So our big rectangle has a side length of 10 over here, so I'm going to go maybe area, and you can write like this: big rectangle is 10 by, now what's the full distance across here? It's going to be 2 plus 3 plus 3.5, so all up that is 8.5. So 10 lots of 8.5 is 85 centimeters squared. That's our big rectangle. Let's do this little rectangle from here and this rectangle here. So this one here has got a height of 1 and a width of 3. So area, and I'm just going to call it small rectangle, is 3 by 1, which is 3 centimeters squared. This area of, let's call it medium rectangle, because it's bigger than that one, but not as big as the full one. So this is a 6 by, what's this distance here? It is 3. So 3 times 6 is 18 centimeters squared. So we're going to work out the area, the total area, so we could call it area total like this, or you could just write A because that's what the question's asking for, and it's going to be our 85 over here. Now remember, this was all of this area, it was too big, so we have to subtract this 3 and we have to subtract this 18. Make sure you don't get confused at the end and go ahead and add all of those. So once we've done that, we should get our answer of 64 centimeters squared. So here's an example for you to have a go at. Keep in mind that all of those edges that have those little dashes on them must be 3 kilometers, because this one's 3 kilometers and that little dash shape shows you that they're all the same exact distance. I would highly recommend labeling all of those, maybe labeling other sides that are not labeled, and then going through and breaking up your shape into those different rectangles. Work out if you're adding the areas or you're subtracting the areas. Pause the video now, have a go, and then resume to check your working out. And there you have it, a final area of 54 kilometers squared. So hopefully now you're feeling confident in working out the area of composite shapes. Thanks for watching.